Hey everyone, welcome back to the Art of Scumming. Thank you for tuning in. You guys saw the title, you guys saw the thumbnail. Today we're talking about Azazel versus Sigvald the Magnificent. Who is better? And to set the stage here, I decided to go back and take a look at the Slaanesh setup because we know that Tides of Torment is coming down the road, and I wanted to get reacquainted with Slaanesh systems and their units and just kind of get back in the groove, so to speak. And I decided to go play a Sigvald the Magnificent campaign because I have not played Sigvald since before the Champions of Chaos DLC came out. And when I did my last video on Slaanesh, I told you that you should just go play as Azazel because N'Kari was feeling very limited, and the justification for that is most aptly shown by going in here and just looking at this. This is basically the Slaanesh roster. Now, I know that there's a lot of gifted units that are missing from this thing, but if I were to take this and then directly show you what's available to the undivided side, you can see there's just more, right? So when it comes to playing as just N'Kari, there's a limited roster, and when you play as the Warriors of Chaos, you can pad out what is missing in your roster with the undivided units. So there's a fair amount more variety available when you play as the Warriors of Chaos than when you play as N'Kari. So you get more variety there. There's more versatility. There's just more to do in this campaign. I assumed that when we're talking about the most updated Slaanesh Lord being Azazel, that he was going to be the best. And if you look at the two characters between him and Sigvald the Magnificent, you've got a demonic, flying, small lord, which checks a whole bunch of boxes, and he's a spellcaster, versus just a dude on foot that cannot get a mount and is not a spellcaster. I just assumed that closed the book, right? Well, there's a lot more nuance between these two characters than initially meets the eye when you just look at that. And that's where I was. And I'm going to tell you right now that I was completely wrong, and I'm going to explain why you should go back and take a look at Sigvald the Magnificent if you've only been playing as Azazel. Because while the Azazel experience is a pure Slaanesh experience, with the addition of just the undivided units, there's so much more in Sigvald's faction. Let me explain. When you go into here and you look at the tech tree, you start with the sensuous branding iron, and when you go over to Sigvald, you get the same sort of setup. And when you go to his Gifts of Chaos, you both get a single space in both the undivided and the Slaanesh space, right? So those are basically equivalent. But if you look at Azazel's tech tree, all of the Champions of Chaos basically have the same tech tree, but is themed for their select faction. So this being Slaanesh, you get your Sensuous Branding Iron, which gives you all the stuff associated with Sensuous Branding Iron, and then you go down like this area for Charioteer, Rite of Ascension, all that sort of stuff for your Chosen, and then all of it is either undivided stuff, or it's the Slaanesh stuff. Or if you would be playing like Village or Valkia or Festus, then it would be their stuff. So it would be, this up here would be, instead of Slaanesh, it would be the relevant association with the different Chaos gods. I just assumed, not looking at it, that it was going to be basically the same when we go over to Sigvald. But if we were to load up into a Sigvald campaign, we will see that it is considerably different. And I completely missed this on initial presentation. And I guess I just forgot because I just didn't even consider to go back and look. Because usually when I play as the Warriors of Chaos, I want to play as Bellicor or play as Archaon. And the other ones, if I get a fancy to play a particular alignment of Chaos, then yes, I understand tying one hand behind your back to do that sort of thing. I understand it. I like it. But if I were to go into this tech tree, you will notice this is the same exact tech tree that Kolek, that Archaon, that Be'lakor have. So essentially, Sigvald is an undivided lord, is an undivided chaos faction headed by a Slaaneshi lord. Because you start with the sensuous branding iron and the vows of excess. And what that gives you access to is predisposition towards the Slaaneshi stuff, but that also allows you to go down all the other branding irons that you cannot get with the other faction. So you cannot do that under Azazel's faction. And what that means is that you can have a themed army like this, but have a Nurgle caster in it. And that Nurgle caster, for instance, can start as a death caster, which means that he has access. That's not what I'm looking at. That one. He has access to life leeching. So not quite unlimited winds of magic, but considerable discount on your winds of magic. Consistent healing for your entire army, which is one of the things that Slaanesh gets a bad rap for, because they have lower armor, faster speed, but they are more glass cannon-like. Having a Nurgle caster allowing you to consistently heal those characters and those units throughout the battle drastically increases the amount of life you get out of all those characters, particularly when we're talking about like aspiring champions and chosen. So this should not be underestimated. On top of that, he gets access to all of the other units. So again, undivided faction headed up by a Slaaneshi lord. He does get a discount for, like, if I were to change this one, these are all, this is base cost 500, but if I were to change this one, base cost 375. So he gets a discount on the gifts of Slaanesh versus the other ones. So he's predisposed to go down the Slaaneshi stuff, but you don't have to. He gets extra authority for his armies towards Slaanesh, but that doesn't mean that you can't just go down particular other lines to add functionality to your armies that you would be able to access in the other undivided factions. So there's a lot of utility here in the Sigvald the Magnificent campaign that I just did not originally understand or evaluate.
Who are these?
There are some hamstrung things. For instance, in his warband recruitment and upgrade system, there is no way. I don't have one here. Let's find one. There is no way to upgrade a demonette of Slaanesh, for instance. So if you want to run exalted demonettes, then you have to do that with Azazel's faction. You can't do that with Sigvald's faction. So I think that that is a small trade-off for access to a much, much bigger unit roster in Sigvald's faction than in Azazel's faction.
Shah! Stop! True power! God of magic! Take this, mortals! Sorcerer Lord, for his manifest glories! Moving fast!
You get to do all the other things. You get to do the seductive influence stuff through, where is it? Let's find somebody. Through diplomacy. You can do all that sort of stuff. You can also just subjugate them if you get their last settlement, that sort of thing. You can do the seduce units before battle, although I will say that Nikari does have the best in that branch of the world. He has the largest budget to, you can seduce a lot of an enemy army versus you're only going to get like 1 or 2 units off of this faction versus the actual Slaanesh faction. And I suppose coming over to Warriors of Chaos, you don't have access to the unholy manifestations or anything. But I would say that the devotee system is not nearly as strong as the souls gathering system. For instance, when it comes to the souls, the gifts of Slaanesh are way more powerful for the Warriors of Chaos than they are for the Monogod Nakari faction. You can basically get your entire upkeep for your souls economy just by spreading the gifts of Slaanesh right from the get-go. And also, starting location, I mean, he starts over here, and all of the enemies in the immediate vicinity are cakewalks. You start with minor faction, minor faction, minor faction. Your first major faction you come up against is going to be Malice Darkblade, and he's going to have like 3 settlements when you come up against him. You're going to have like 3 Dark Fortresses when you come up against him. You're going to have probably Chaos Warriors by the time you get there, and maybe a few Chosen. He's not going to be able to touch you. You're going to roll all over him. You also, immediately, if you keep on pushing through him, will get access to Epidemius, which allows you to increase your research rate by farming his trait. So there's just a lot packed into this campaign that is kind of sleeper on everything else that we kind of look at when we're talking about the other 2 Slaanesh factions in the game that, I'll be honest, I just missed, and I wanted to bring it to your attention that maybe you missed it too. Go check out Sigvald the Magnificent and tell me that it isn't the most powerful Slaanesh faction in the game.